Hello, everybody. It's Wednesday night, March 10th. Pesach is only a couple of weeks away. We don't have much time, especially since I know in advance that next week I will not be able to have class. So, the topic that's been coming up, and it's really not one I wanted to discuss tonight because I had something totally unrelated to Pesach I wanted to bring up, but this has been coming up a lot, and it's what to do Pesach that, and I'll say it even though I don't like saying it, Pesach that falls out on Ereb Shabbat, okay? And, or rather, Ereb Pesach that falls out on Ereb Shabbat, and that's what I don't like to say. And I'll get to that in a moment, even though I'm sure most of you know this already. So I don't think it's a big deal. It's happened in our lifetime so many times, but for some reason, people make a big deal out of it, and every time it happens, they come up with a new formula of what people need to do. And really, there should be a 5-minute class at most. But since so much has been written on it, and since we have 3 contemporaries that have written on it, and like we've done with Gomel, we've gone through all the different opinions, I've seen different approaches. I think it's important at least to scratch the surface with each one of these giants, Hakham Yosef, Hakham David Chelouche, Hakham Haim David HaLevi, and see what they have to say about it. Now, as an intro, when people say Ereb Pesah, okay, she-hal BeShabbat, Ereb Pesach that falls out on Shabbat, I don't like that, because when you think of Ereb Pesach, okay, you're thinking that you're not connected to Pesach. And what is known today as Ereb Pesach is the 14th day of the month of Nisan. The 14th day of the month of Nisan, as far as the Torah is concerned, is Pesach. Okay? And only when you get towards the end of that 14th day, that's when you will start eating your Korban Pesach, going into the night of the 15th, which also is the start of Hakham. So you have 2 holidays really converging upon one another. Okay, in this case, it would be Saturday night. Okay, again, this is not something that changes the halachot. It's just an issue of terms of terminology, which just personally irks me. Okay, so I just felt I had to bring it up. So technically, the 14th day of the month of Nisan, the day that you would be bringing Korban Pesach, okay, is Pesach. The 14th of Pesach is Pesach, okay? And the 15th of Pesach is a separate holiday called Hakham. They converge together when the 14th ends and the 15th begins. Okay, now, so let's move forward. So, what happens now? How do the laws change? How do they stay the same? So obviously the laws are all identical, but they have to get moved. Okay, basically instead of the day before or the night before, it gets pushed back an extra day or an extra night. Now, people's biggest concerns are not with when they do Bedikat Hamis, okay, which obviously is going to get pushed back to Thursday night, okay, which is strange, okay. If you're doing that Thursday night, and then Friday morning comes for, you would think you're doing Bi'ur Hamis, but are you doing Bi'ur Hamis? Well, you're not doing Bi'ur Hamis now because you still have another day after that to continue eating bread. If you're doing this Bidikat Hamis on Thursday night, does that mean if you're a Bechor, you're getting up Friday morning to fast? Or maybe you're not. Maybe it's nullified completely because technically you should be doing that on Shabbat morning, and we don't fast on Shabbat unless it's Yom Kippur. Or do we do it on Friday morning? Or do we do it on Thursday morning and we finish this fast, and then that night you only begin B'dikat Hameh? So we call it all one big mess, okay? And for some reason, people don't like to look at the sources. People like to create their own rules and regulations without actually looking at the sources. Now, I sent you a 16-page or so PDF just now. It's a little bit sloppy. I apologize. But you'll notice that the last two pages, pages 15 and 16 of that PDF, are Shulchan Aruch. And I think we should look at Shulchan Aruch before we look at any other source to know, what everybody is basing themselves upon. So let's do that first. And I'm just going to go through it quickly because it's really 8 different serifim, and we don't need necessarily to sit and dwell on all 8 of them. So let me open up over here, and we'll see what's going on. It was, there we go, Siman Tav Mim Dalit. Okay? It should be page 15 of your PDF, if I'm not mistaken. Din Ereb Pesah, she-hal BeShabbat. Okay? The laws of Ereb Pesah that falls out on Saturday, on Shabbat. So he starts. Yod Dalit she-hal BeShabbat, Butkin le'il Chelouche asar. So he goes, automatically, now we have to do the bidikah on the night of the 13th. Okay? When's the night of the 13th? Thursday night. And then we have to do bi'ur before Shabbat. Umshayirin mazon shete se'udot lesorech Shabbat, but we keep food for the 2 se'udot of Shabbat, 2 se'udot meaning the Friday night meal and the Shabbat morning meal. السعودة شليشيت زمانة حرم منها ואז إنه يأخذ عصوتا لو بمصا ולא בחמש, because we don't include Saudah Shalishit because that would fall out after Minha, and after Minha is a time where you're not allowed to eat Masa and you're not allowed to eat Hamis. إلا بمصا عشيرة, but you could have Masa Ashira, what we refer to in America as egg Masa. بسريق العصوتا قدم شعاع سيريت, and this Saudah Shalishit must be before the 10th hour of the day, because obviously we need to enter the holiday with the proper appetite. So these are very important halachot. Okay, we're going to skip the Haggaha, we're going to skip Muram, we're going to move on. Bet توب لبعير بعرب شبات قدم حصوت كده شلو يبو لتعود بشعر شنيم لبعير حصوت. So in the previous halacha, Rabbi Yosef Karo told us that we do bi'ur before Shabbat. Now he's telling us it's good to do bi'ur. He's not saying you have to, but rather he's telling you it's good to do bi'ur, okay, which is what we refer to as burning, on Ereb Shabbat before midday, on Friday before midday. And why? For one reason and alone, so you don't make a mistake in the coming year and burn it later than Hasot. Leave that aside now. Halacha Gimel. All right, we'll read it. אין מבשלים שבת זה דייסה, וכי עושה בזה, ואין עושים בו פת הסנועה בקערה. We don't cook any sort of grain, any sort of cereal for the Shabbat, and you don't make any sort of bread that tends to get caked on and stick to the platter. Okay, obviously because you're not going to be able to clean it properly and get rid of it all properly before Pesach. Fine. Now, halacha dalet. Ahar she'achal b'Shabbat ze se'udat shaharit. Okay, so now we're talking about Saturday morning, after you eat your morning meal. Yena'ir hamapah she'achlu ba, they shake the tablecloth that they ate upon. V'kaneh ha'ke'arot be'esba'o, clean the plates with your finger. V'tammenim min ha'ayin im she'ar k'lei hamis, and lock them away, hide them away from sight with your other hamis utensils. V'im nish'ar pat, and if there's any bread remaining, you can give it to a non-Jew, okay, on condition that they don't go out of it, you go out with it to Reshut Rabbim. Like they're taking a lot of stuff. A little bit, no problem. We'll get to this also. Hey, in nishar hames ahar she'achlu, if hames remains after they ate, מבטלו וחופה עליו כלי עד מוצאי יום טוב בערו. Do bitul, okay, bitul hames, then you cover it with a pot, and you leave it under this pot until the end of Yom Tov, and after the end of Yom Tov, then you burn it. Okay, so in other words, if we're saying the holiday is Sunday and Monday, 2 days of Yom Tov, Monday night, you would burn this hames. Okay, you're burning hames. Next, Vav. אף על פי שלא יישאר החמץ בבית אחר סעודה שחרית, צריך לבטל החמץ כדרך שהוא מבטל בשאר שנים. Even though you have no more bread, okay, assuming you finished all your bread now after your Saturday morning sa'udah, you still have to do bitul hames like you do every year. 7. ההולך ביום 14 לדבר מצווה כגון לימוד בינו לאכול סעודת אלוהים בית החמי ונזכר שיש לו חמץ בביתו אם יכול לחזור לביתו לבעיר חזור למצוותו יחזור לבעיר ואם לא יבטלנו בליבו ואם היה הולך להסיר מן הנהר מן הדלקה מהפעולות מיד האנס יבטלנו בליבו ולא יחזור אפילו יהיה שהות ואם יעשה לזור חסמה יחזור מיד כמה הוא יחזור עד כבשה ואוקיי. הלכה זין אבל ספר now doesn't apply to us in our cases that we're going to be discussing and חית هاي تلو حساب بيته وهو تروب بمقام حي بيري شمال تحميس مبطلة بالبوكو الجحمية بعدين نحمسه okay we're going to skip حيت also. So we looked at 6 halachot in Shulchan Aruch that if we taught them to the average person would either okay simple no problem or what are you talking about, I'm utterly confused. I don't think we have somebody that would be stuck in between. I think the person will either, yes, sure, easy, or too difficult for me. And this is where our confusion starts. Are you guys in agreement so far? Good. Where'd Mo go? All right, anyway.
He says he can't get back on. He tried.
I don't control it, so I don't know. Okay, so we saw what Maran said very clearly, I would say, in Shulchan Aruch. Okay, I don't think there should be any question, but as I said, I think most people will either accept it easily or they'll find it utterly confusing. Now we're going to move to Hakham Yosef. Hakham Yosef, in his Yehaveh Da'at, the first volume of Yehaveh Da'at, which came out in 77. And I'm not really sure if this particular siman appeared in the initial printing or it came out in a later printing. Okay, but I think it was originally there. So if you look at from pages 2 onward, you'll see Hakham Yosef goes through a bunch of scenarios, or rather not scenarios, but topics he breaks it down to. So if he starts with Derashat Shabbat HaGadol. Derashat Shabbat HaGadol, as we know, Shabbat HaGadol is the Shabbat prior to Pesach, and that's when the Hakham of the community or the Hakham of the synagogue will speak to teach about the halachot necessary for Pesach, as well as the Nisim v'Niflaot that Borei Olam did to Am Yisrael with Yetziat Mitzrayim. Now, obviously, if it's a case like this year, where Shabbat HaGadol is basically a few hours before Pesach starts, then you cannot implement anything you learned that day, for Pesach, and it's pretty much futile. So we need to do Shabbat HaGadol speech and class the week before. So we backtrack now. This year would be on Saturday, March 13th, is when you would have your Shabbat HaGadol speech. Next section, Bidikat Hames. Bidikat Hames, as we said, would now be done on Thursday night. Ereb Pesah. You see I'm reading over there, letter Bet. Ereb Pesah, she-hal להיות בשבת, בודקים את החמץ ביום חמישי בערב, או ליום שישי יוד ג' ניסן. So as we said, Thursday night. Okay, Yom Hamishi Ba'irib, what is known as Thursday night. Okay, which is the night prior to Friday, which is now the 13th of Nisan. And the bidika is the same like any bidika. He tells you, if if you don't have an air, you could use a flashlight, whatever the case may be. Okay, and you make the beracha before the bidika. Okay, and at the end of the bidika, the kal hamira, and we put away the hames, and he tells you over here, ויש להיזהר להשניע חמש שנשאר ונועד לאכילה ביום שישי ויום שבת בפינה מיוחדת. But make sure you put aside, even though you didn't have this search for the hames, the bidikat hames, put aside whatever bread, whatever hames you're still going to be eating all day Friday, all of Friday night, and all of Shabbat morning until the hour where it becomes asur. Okay? Put it in a separate place so it doesn't get spread out throughout the house or mixed up with anything else. The next section he goes to is ta'anid bechonim. As I showed before, that also becomes confusing. Is it done at all? Is it not done? Is it done on Thursday or Friday or Saturday? Now, it's very interesting. I didn't copy you the page from Shulchan Aruch, but Shulchan Aruch, I'm going to read it to you. It's Siman Taf Ayin, and some of you that are on another chat with me have seen me bring this up already, where we have a rule in Shulchan Aruch, okay? And I don't like it's a rule, but obviously there's no rule that is followed 100% of the time, but generally there's a rule that we say, Setam ve'yesh halacha kistam. Yesh ve'yesh halacha kiyesh batra. Meaning when Shulchan Aruch brings down a law and then brings down yesh omrim, we follow the initial law that he mentions. When he brings on a case of yesh omrim and another ve'yesh omrim, we follow the second one, the ve'yesh omrim. That's the general rule. So now look, Shulchan Aruch, Siman Taf Ayin, Se'if Bet, he tells you, Imhal Ereb Pesah BeShabbat. Okay, if Ereb Pesah falls out on Shabbat, in other words, the 14th day of Nisan is on Shabbat. Yesh Omrim, Shemit'anim HaBechorot B'Yom He. There are those that say, Yesh Omrim, that the Bechorot fast on Thursday. Ve'yesh Omrim, She'ena Mit'anim Kelal. And those that say they do not fast at all. That's it. If that's the case, based upon the general rule that we follow in Shulchan Aruch, that means we do not fast at all. When you have yesh and ve'yesh, you follow the second ve'yesh, that means we do not fast at all. The common practice, though, is to follow the first yesh of fasting on Thursday. Okay? Why? I don't know. Why not Friday? The Hida, who is considered a major authority, tells us do it on Friday. He tells us other than Shulchan Aruch, obviously. So I've yet to come up with a good answer for this, but if anybody does find something that makes sense, please let me know. In any case, we come back to...
I think people like to keep their tradition.
I'm sorry?
I think people like to keep their tradition every year. They don't want...
No, Mike, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. My question is not why are we not following Shulchan Aruch, okay, or following the general rule and just not fasting at all. My question is why Thursday and not Friday? That's my question mark.
That I don't know.
Okay? Because you'd still be doing it and be doing it closer to Pesach, so it would make more sense. Well, what's the point of pushing this, and I'm going to call it problematic fast. Problematic because as we studied the Teshuvah of Hakham Yosef Mesas many years ago, we saw he dealt with a number of factors over here. The two biggest factors, in my opinion, that I remember from this Teshuvah. One is the month of Nisan. In the month of Nisan, we don't do fasting, we don't do eulogies, we don't do anything. Number two, on a regular year, this fast is going on the 14th of Nisan. The 14th of Nisan is Pesach. It's a holiday. It's a real holiday. It's a Torah. It's a holiday d'oraita. How are we fasting on such a day? And obviously, we know nowadays, there are very, very few people in the world that still fast on this day. Everybody, this, if you want to, we'll call it disposes of this fast with a siyum. That's become the common practice. In other times it would be with a milah or with a wedding. But there were communities where people actually did fast. They fasted the entire day. Like the Sephardim of Holland in Amsterdam, they would fast on the 14th. Many places in Morocco, they fasted. There were other communities where there were Hachamim that would fast because they knew the rest of the people were dispensing with the fast through some sort of other Seudat Mizvah. So they fasted in place of the people. And now we're pushing it backwards to Thursday. Thursday now is the 12th of Nisan. From where to where? What connection does it still have? You want to do it on Friday the 13th, at least it's closer to the holiday. But it still makes no sense. Anyway, let's move back to Hakham with Yosef. He tells you, Ereb Pesah, she-hal, BeShabbat, yesh poskim shesrichim, שמסריחים את הבכורים להקדים את התענית החמישי, ויש חוקים שאומרים שהואיל ונחל התענית במקומו שאי אפשר לטענו בשבת, נדחה לגמרי, ואין צורך לטענות כלל. He tells you both opinions. ואף על פי שמרן שולחן ערוך פסק כדעה אחרונה להקל, so according to what you said, there's no question. Maran's opinion is no fasting on such a year. מכל מקום, אם אפשר לבחורו להשתתף בסיום מסכת ובשאר סעודות מזווה כגון ברית מילה, פדיון הבן, סעודת החתן, טוב לעשות כן. But if a bechor can, partake of a sa'udat mizvah to forego the fast, it's a good thing to do. And the rest of it doesn't apply to what we're talking about. So, basically, you could tell he realizes that people are going to do it anyway, or like Mark said, people may not want to get rid of something that they generally do. So, do it if you, find a way to do it and be excused from it. Now we get to the Bi'ur Hames. Bi'ur Hames biyom shishi. So now it's Friday, and to do Bi'ur Hames. Do you do Bi'ur Hames or you do not do Bi'ur Hames? Why should I be destroying Hames when I can still eat Hames? Right? You're supposed to burn the Hames. We generally burn the Hames earlier than the time that it's really forbidden to us because, we're done with it. We're finished. I'm not waiting till the last minute. I'm rushing off to work. I don't want to have any more Hames in the house, or I have to get rid of it, because if I don't do it now, who's going to do it at what time? So we get rid of it. But now we have all day Friday to eat Hames. And we have Friday night, we're definitely eating Hames in our Shabbat meal. Shabbat morning, I'm getting up, I could still eat Hames. Why am I burning now? So now, Hakham tells you, Af al-pi, even though, ביום שישי שהוא יום י"ג בניסן מותר לאכול חמץ כל היום מכל מקום, טוב לבעיר החמץ. It's good to do it. You don't have to do it. You're good to do it. בערב שבת בשעה חמישית. Now, this year, I've saw many, many people and articles and ads telling you must burn Hamas on Friday. So, and I'll tell you the honest truth, I've never heard that before. In all the years of a Saturday night Pesach, I never, ever heard any rabbi say you must burn Hamas on Friday. So it's a new thing this year. And they're telling you, כדי שלא יבואו לטעות בשנה הבאה לבעיר החמץ אחר חצות היום. He's quoting Shulchan Aruch, who's telling you, make sure you burn in the morning so you don't make a mistake, in other years. And then obviously leave, he's telling you, וישאיר מן החמץ מזון לשתי סעודות של שבת בלבד, לשבת ביום שבת שחרית, ואין צריך לבטל החמץ שני בשעת הביעור שביום השישי, אלא לבטל ביום שבת. But don't do, when you burn it on Friday, don't do bitul hametz, only do the bitul on Shabbat. Once you're finished eating and when it's time to get rid of your hametz. And don't cook any difficult items to clean up like Shulchan said. The next thing he moves us to is Asiyat Melacha B'Yom Shishi, working on Friday. Doesn't apply to our case. We're not going to talk about it. Tefilat Yom Shabbat HaGadol Ereb Pesah. So this is important now. So we're saying you're allowed to eat Hametz Shabbat morning. Now, we know the times for finishing Hametz generally tend to be early. I don't have an exact time, but I'll just quote you the times that may be printed in this calendar. Again, I'm not saying this time is correct or incorrect, because I didn't check them myself to figure it out. Does it tell us the time at all? Let's see. He tells you over here, finish eating Hametz by 10:20 a.m. Okay, that's for Saturday, March 27th. For Brooklyn, this is what this calendar is telling us. Now, how many people go to Knesset Shabbat morning and are home in time to eat their meal and finish it and get rid of it all by 10:20? Generally, that's not the case. Okay? Unless, of course, you're going to first minyan and you're coming home at 9 o'clock and you're eating your whole Seudah. So, what does Hakham Yosef tell us now? B'yom Shabbat yeshkimu kum t'itpalel shachrit imanes hamma. Get up early and pray early. Pray vatikin, he's telling you. Pray nes hamma. V'lo ya'arichu b'tfilah b'nigunim u'piyutim. And don't stretch the prayer with too many tunes. V'chein yishtadelu lo la'alot olim nosafim l'Sefer Torah. And no extra olim to the Sefer Torah. Just the 7 necessary ones. In other words, for you to get, in order for you to get home in time, to have your meal and finish in time. Okay, the haftarah is a different issue. We're not going to talk about the haftarah because that's a different class, different minhagim. Now, next section. Sa'udat shahrit shel Shabbat HaGadol. يزهر מאוד בסעודתו. Be very careful with the סעודה. שלא יתפזרו פירורי הלחם לכל עבר. That crumbs don't go spread to and fro. ומיד לאחר הסעודה יסניע כל כלי החמץ במקום מיוחד וינער המפה עם פירורי החמץ שעליה לתוך פח האשפה ויסענה עם כלי החמץ. Clean the table well, make your crumbs all together, any sort of dishes, pots, put them away with the regular hametz stuff, and that's it. And if you have full pieces of bread remaining, in other words, break them up until none of them remain to be the size of a kazait. And then throw them into the garbage. And you're allowed to sweep the house with a regular broom to guarantee that there's no crumbs of hametz around. Wash your hands well, and wash your mouth out well with water. So there's no remaining hametz in your mouth. And use a toothpick or so to clean out between your teeth. Okay, fine. Now, how does Saudah? After the Saudah, you batel hametz. Then you do bitul hametz after the Saudah, Shabbat morning. And you say the kal hamira. Okay? So far, I think it's pretty clear. Now, this is generally what we were always taught, and this is what we always did. On such a Shabbat, minyan was early. There was no late minyan, and somebody who went to late minyan, they were already told from the day before, and it was generally tended to be a much sparser crowd for the regular time minyan, and they were told that you people that are doing that, you have to finish all your hametz by Friday night after the meal. But generally, most people went to pray early on that Shabbat morning. Everybody went home, ate their hametz, and we generally were told to either throw the hametz outside, but generally we weren't even told that because most people's garbages were outside, your private domain. So we couldn't do that. We were told to cut into pieces and flush it down the toilet on Shabbat morning after Saudah early. And that was all we got rid of it. We walk out of the bathroom and you say the Kal Hamira, and we were finished. And it wasn't a big deal. Everybody knew how to do it. You didn't need any geniuses around, and you didn't know how to say it yourself. You went to a neighbor, come help me say the words. Everybody had neighbors that they could go, come say the words. Oh, you didn't know how to say the words? Okay, flush it and then go to somebody who lives 2-3 blocks away and let them read it for you. It wasn't a big deal. In other words, people helped each other out in doing such things. It wasn't like, I'm all high and mighty, I know how to say it, and you don't know how to say it, so you're considered, on the fringes of society, and so you can't do anything. It wasn't like that at all. Very, very different. Now, Achilat Masa be'Ereb Pesah. I'm going to skip this section about Achilat Masa be'Ereb Pesah because we don't eat it. Plain and simple. Ereb Pesach, we don't eat Masa. So I don't want to get into the whole thing. I do want to get into what he writes next, okay? And that's on page 278. What he refers to as Isa, Toba, Bi'anyan, Saudat, Leil, Shabbat, V'yomo. And this is where he gets into trouble, okay? And not that he did something bad, but his contemporaries may not like what he wrote. So Hakham Yosef now comes to give good advice regarding the Saudah of Friday night and Shabbat morning. Follow carefully. Le'or ha'amur, in light of all I've said, Yeshna Isa Toba Lechol Mi She'yaseh Bekach. There's good advice for all those who wish. Now, before we continue, I see Mark's laughing his head off over here already. Okay, that means obviously we know how from when he wrote this 40 years ago to today, how it's obviously changed the world. So you won't have to have any hametz remaining in your house for Shabbat. ויבוא לידי חשש מכשול ותקלה בפירורי חמץ הנשארים מהסעודה. So you come into a situation where you have doubts if you have any sort of crumbs or small pieces of bread within your domain, remaining from the Saudah of Shabbat. וכן, שלא יצטרך להניח את כלי החמץ שנשארו מסעודות השבת שאין אפשרות לנקותם בשבת להדיחם כראוי שאין שבת מכין לאכול. And you can't clean your dishes properly. And what are you going to do with it? And you're not going to want to put them away. And you're not going to want to throw them out. And you're not going to know what to do with them. ויישארו בבית כאבן שאין לה הופכים. And it's going to be like a big stone sitting in your house that nobody knows how to turn over, nobody knows how to move. עד מוסאי יום טוב של פסח. It's going to remain until the end of יום טוב. לפיכך, טוב ונכון לנהוג לבער החמץ מכל וכל בערב שבת. Well, he tells you now, it's good and it's proper. Told, good v'nachon, and proper, and it's correct. Linhog, to enact, to burn all your hametz, every last drop of it, he's telling you. Mikol v'kol be'erev Shabbat, on Friday. Libelti yish'ir lo sarid kela v'ikar. Do not allow even a speck to remain. Lehasni'a במקום מיוחד כל כלי החמץ לאחר הדחתם שטיפתם בערב שבת כראוי. Put away all your hametz vessels from before Shabbat. ולהשתמש בשבת אך ורק בכלים הכשרים ומיוחדים לפסח. And on Shabbat only use Pesach utensils. Okay, even Friday night he's telling you. ובתבשילים ומאכלים הכשרים לפסח. And only eat Pesach, kasher the Pesach food on that Shabbat. V'kayem mizvat sa'udat Shabbat. And how are you going to fulfill the mizvah of sa'udat Shabbat? B'masa mibushelet betoch marak shel basar o shel of. You're going to take Masa, Pesach Masa, and you're going to cook it in chicken or meat broth. How so? After you finish cooking your food, you remove it from upon the fire. While the food is still hot enough that you really can't touch it without, pulling back your finger. Put in a number of pieces of masa as you feel will be needed. Enough so this masa absorbs the taste, the flavor of the food. Then you could take these masot, these food-absorbed masot, and you could use them for all 3 meals, Friday night, Saturday morning, and Saturday afternoon. Because now it's masa, but it's not masa, according to Hakham Yosef. And don't take these pieces of masa out of the pot until the food cools off. And you'll be able to take out the food whole. Now, I don't know if you could really take it out whole, because depending on how much liquids and broth are there, and if you let it sit in there too long, it will break up. In any case, he doesn't want it to break up within the broth. You want to have it to be whole, so you could actually cut it like you'd be cutting, the bread or any masa to do regular hamusi. And you would want to say, obviously, Birkat Mazon. And it has to look like pat. It has to look like it is a complete piece of masa that will be considered pat. But you could also, if you don't want to do that, you could also fry it in oil. Take your whole masa and fry it all. And therefore you could also fulfill your sa'udot of Shabbat with this fried masa. And for Friday night, you're really not concerned. You could actually eat regular masa without doing any of this to it, because it's still the night before Pesach. Because technically on the night of the 14th, there's no isur of eating masa, like I mentioned above. وبيوم شبات يقيم سعودات شحريت ذخين سعودات شليشيب مسام مشاء متوجه. And on Yom Shabbat, on Saturday, your Saturday morning meal after Musaf and your Saturday afternoon meal after Minha, you would eat it on the masa that was soaking the meat or chicken broth, or on fried masa. Okay? And when you do this whole program that I'm telling you, you have to do bitul hames on Friday when you burn. In other words, Friday you have to burn all your hames and say your kal hamira, and then do all this lovely program that he's telling you. Okay, let's read one more halacha. Halacha Yud Bet. You have Halacha Yud Bet there, right? And then we're going to move on. Nachon, la'asot sa'udah shelishi b'masa m'bushet. He's telling you it's proper to do sa'udah shelishi with cooked masa. Ve'yesh la'agdim sa'udah zo lefnei sof sha'at tishi'it mehayom. Okay, you have to make this sa'udah before the 9th hour. Remember, we saw Shulchan Aruch said the 10th hour. How as long as the 9th hour. So you could have a party appetite for the masa at night. If you're late, you could still do it. Just make sure you eat less than kabesa, less than 2 ounces, we'll call it for now. ואם רוצה לקיים מצוות סעודה שלישית ומסע עשירה, and if you want to fulfill the mitzvah of סעודה שלישית with מסע עשירה, egg מסע, יברך עליה בורא עולם מזונות ועל המחיה. Okay, you would make the beracha beforehand of mizonot and afterwards of, what do you call it, al mahya. So this was Hakham Obadiah Yosef. Before we continue, I'd like to hear comments from anybody, everybody, please. Michael, I think you're more than ready to weigh in, so please go ahead.
Yeah, it seems pretty strange. I mean, this whole program that he suggested. I mean, very interesting ingredients, I guess, the stew, but to have everyone forced to eat that, it seems, I mean, in my eyes, to be like a bit, almost like you're taking away from the enjoyment of Shabbat, that you can't have regular Friday night meal. You have to have like a stew that maybe people don't like stew.
Well, he's not telling you have to eat a stew. He's telling you you're eating only kasher lePesach food, but take one of these kasher lePesach foods, or 2 or 3, doesn't make a difference, and put your Masa in it so the Masa will absorb the flavor. When food cools off, take this Masa out while it's obviously still wet. You're putting it aside for it to cool off and to re-harden, if you will. And now you have this, Masa that has been sitting in your food, that has absorbed the flavors and the juices of your food, which so now no longer tastes like Masa.
Right.
That's what he's telling you to do.
So then,
odd.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard. I'm saying it's odd.
But what's complicated is and on the other hand, he says you can have regular Masa on Friday night.
On
so
Friday
which
night.
is it?
Well, it's not you could on Friday night. He said if you could have regular on Friday night, but on Saturday itself you could not.
Mm-hmm. So on Saturday and Seudah Shalishit,
not only Seudah Shalishit, even in the morning.
Right, Saturday morning.
In other words, Friday night is called Seudah Rishona. The meal that you have after Musaf is called Seudah Shiniya, and the meal after Minha is called Seudah Shalishit.
Fine. So both meals on Saturday you can use the Masa that you cooked in a soup.
Right, or fried.
Or fried in oil, but on Friday night you can have regular Masa as Mosseri.
Right.
I think it's very practical though. Outside of, it's very hard to turn over a house with getting kasher Pesach between dishes and pots and utensils. It's not too easy. I think it's very practical that's what people do often. So it's done. It's easier for the women. It's easier to get to everybody to get everything done before Shabbat, and it's hard to prepare on Shabbat to put all your hametz pots away and everything like that.
Keep going. Yeah. I plan on answering everybody. Keep going. I'm listening.
So I think it's very practical,
and
I think it's easier on people, and it's less stress, less headache, and less room for. It's better planned, and it's less room for mix-ups. That hametz dishes get mixed up into kasher Pesach dishes and food, etc. And in regard to the issue of burning the hametz on Ereb Pesach, and that halacha that he said initially, if you want to take that approach, I don't think that was too crazy either, because we have other hametz besides bread. There's cereal, there's pasta, there's a whole bunch of other things that we're not going to eat on Shabbat anymore. Okay, so you want to eat lahem mishneh on Shabbat, if you're going to go to that approach, then okay, what's wrong with burning it on Erev Shabbat? I don't think anything that he said was too radical.
I didn't say it was radical.
Or it was too difficult. I just thought it was practical. I think it makes sense in today's world, and it's
okay.
So
one second, Michael. David El-Hadif kept raising his hand.
Okay.
What do you want to say, David?
Hey, if I heard you correctly, I think Barry touched upon it also. He was saying to use this diluted matzah or make it into a stew on Friday night as well.
It's not what I said at all.
No, I'm asking. Am I?
I said, Hakham Obadiah Yosef is saying that if you want to follow his advice, you are ridding yourself of all Hamas prior to Shabbat.
Okay.
Even before prior to Shabbat, rather Friday morning.
Okay.
What are you going to do on Shabbat for Hamosi is you cannot eat Masa past Friday night. Okay, in other words, on the 14th of Nisan, you cannot eat Masa. So what you can do, though, to have Hamosi and not have bread, is you take the Masa and you alter the taste of the Masa by one of two methods. One, either taking it and soaking it in your food, so now it absorbs the full flavor of your food, or by taking the Masa and frying it. You now leave yourself with whole masot that no longer taste like Masa. They either taste like fried in oil, or they taste like your chicken soup, or your meat stew, and you would make hamusi and and do bisi'at pat on that, and you follow it with Birkat Mazon, and you could do it for all three meals of Shabbat, Sauda Rishona, Shiniya, or Shilishit, or you could opt to eat regular Masa for Sauda Rishona and only use these altered Masot for Sauda, Shiniya, and Shilishit.
Yeah, use the altar matzah, seudah, sheniya, and shalishit. I understand. Using it for rishonah makes no sense to me.
But you can, he's telling you.
But why? But why? There's no isur of matzah on Friday night until the 14th.
Nobody said anything about isur. Well, because I prepared this. He's saying you could do this.
The only
David,
reason.
David. First of all, there are plenty of people that don't eat masot at all until they hit Pesach. Doesn't make a difference when it is. Once the month of Nisan shows up, they're not going near Masa.
Okay.
That's it.
But there's an isur to have matzah Ereb Pesach.
We understand that.
So he's saying to get out of this efsek or safek, you dilute the matzah in order to create a geder that you don't eat actual matzah, which is a grave isur. It's a terrible sin if the Gemara writes, right?
I'm following, but I'm not following.
But that mitzvah, that isur does not get off the ground until, in this case, this year, Shabbat morning. So why would anyone even consider doing that Friday night when the taste of, when you're allowed to have matzah on steroids Friday night? Doesn't matter.
But I just told you, there are people that will not. I, for one, will not. How about that? What do you think of that?
For what reason will you not?
It's a personal minhag. I do not eat Masa from Rosh Chodesh Nisan. I do not. What are you going to tell me? I have to?
No.
Thank you.
You have to have bread Friday night. What do you mean?
Yeah.
What?
You're supposed to have bread Friday night. Bread, lechem, not matzah. So I don't understand where.
David, you completely confused me now. A second ago, you're saying, why would somebody opt to have this cooked masa on Friday night when you could eat masa on steroids?
You can.
Now you're telling me, don't eat masa, eat bread. Which one do you want to talk about?
You can have either one. The only reason you're going to dilute the bread, the matzah, is because you cannot have matzah. But you can have matzah on Friday night this year.
Okay.
And every other year.
Here we go again. So let's say I'm somebody who doesn't eat masa.
But he's not talking. But
One second. Let me finish. I don't eat masa until Pesach comes. And I'm also somebody who is on the track of Marcus Seda over here, who it was very difficult to flip my house over, and to do everything I have to do. There's no way I want to have any bread in my house. Okay, already from Friday.
Okay,
Okay,
fair
because
enough.
it's too much. So now I don't have bread Friday night, and
Fair
I
enough.
don't eat regular masa. So Hakham Yosef is telling you you could eat this cooked masa thing. What don't you get?
Because that is a. I mean, apparently you're saying that's a very strong minhag, the one that you're upholding, which is fine. Which is fine. No one's going to stop you from that.
Okay.
I just don't think. I'm just not sure why he would be if he's being posek for those people. It's not the majority of people, based on my experience. I could be wrong.
Fine. So it's not the majority of people, and he's telling you Friday night you could eat regular masa. He said it outright, clearly. He said it. So what's the question?
The question is, why would you dilute matzah on Friday night when there's no isur of matzah Friday night?
All right, next. Let's go to the next person. Rabbi, anything you want to say?
I think we're going in circles, and I'm just not buying it. So, but
It's okay. It's
maybe.
okay. Rabbi Kasorla, please.
I want to suggest a simple thing. I don't think Obadiah Yosef followed his own advice in his own home. I bet you he didn't.
I know he didn't. How about that?
Yeah.
This was Eitzah Tova, and I'm sorry that he didn't trust his own people to get rid of the pitot, whatever it was. You know, I think he is talking to Amcha, and he's worried about the isur of having the crumbs. And I think he should have more confidence in his own people. I think this was Eitzah Tova, which he did not follow in his own home. What do you think?
I know for a fact he ate bread.
Absolutely. He suddenly Hakham Obadiah becomes a chef. Out of left field.
Listen, Hakham Yosef definitely felt for the people. Okay, he created this Eitzah Tova. I'm guessing he created it based upon experience that he ran into while teaching Hilchot Pesach for decades, and he saw that there were problems with certain segments of society that they couldn't grasp what to do or what not to do, and he came up with a solution. Obviously, it's not for everybody, and it is what it is. Okay?
But one thing I wanted to say, like Friday night to have the Masa, it like kills the whole anticipation for Pesach.
Don't tell that to David Al-Hadif, because David Al-Hadif wants you to have it on steroids.
No, but really, I mean, that's the whole
I
thing,
agree.
right? We're going to have
I
Masa.
agree, 1,000,000%. That's what I'm telling you. Personally, I don't have it from Rosh Chodesh. To me, I think I get that time frame in my head, and I get myself psyched up for the Mizvah. That 2-week period really, pumps it up and makes it, even more special for me. And
Right.
This is something I've been doing for decades.
Right.
More than a decade, when I was still single.
Right. It's beautiful minhag.
And it's my personal thing, and I've seen it written in different sources. I didn't make it up on my own, but to me it makes sense. I don't tell anybody to do it. I don't tell my own family to do it, but for myself.
Right.
Okay. Good now.
But this advice does let people pray at a regular time, though.
Yes, it does.
Let's be honest. People will not go to the Vatikin Netzach Minyan, and they're gonna come back at 12, whatever time it is. And if they follow this advice, they'll be doing it with a clear conscience.
Okay, so let me be honest with you. All right, even though I'd rather not talk about this, but let's talk honestly. How many people you really feel? Okay, and I know it's not gonna sound right, so maybe I should just avoid it. But I'm gonna skip it for now. Maybe we'll come back to it at the end. I think it's gonna come out the wrong way. No, it's gonna come out the wrong way. It's gonna be misconstrued, and I don't need the headache, honestly.
Come on, just say it.
Who's talking over here? Okay. We're going to move on to Rabbi Haim HaLevi. Okay. I wanted to do Rabbi Chelouche first, but I decided let's do Rabbi Haim David HaLevi first. Okay? So we have right in front of you Rabbi Haim David HaLevi. It's from Aseh Lecharab, Helik He. Okay? And as we know, all these teshuvot and Aseh Lecharab tend to be short. He has a few long ones, but for the most part, they're short. Now look. Sa'udot Shabbat she-hal ba Ereb Pesah. Okay? We're dealing with the same scenario. Watch what he does now. בתשובה למכתב כאבות הורתו מיום ראש חודש ניסן דינה. הריני להסביר בקשתו מדוע אני מתעקש להורות ברבים שיעשו סעודות שבת שחל בו ערב הפסח בחמש דווקא. וכפי שעשיתי בשבוע שעבר בשידור רדיו בתוכנית עשה לך רב. So, somebody sent him a letter and asked him, Rabbi, please explain to me, why are you so stubborn? You're stubborn, publicly pushing the people that they must have their Shabbat meals with Hamas. And you even did it on the radio, live, on your Aseh Lecha Rab radio program. What's the stubbornness of yours about them having to eat Hamas? You know, in other words, the Hakham Yosef thing came out, people already knew about it. So who are you now that you're telling them, no, eat bread? והנה, בשנים קודמות, הורו גדולי הרבנים בדורנו, לערוך סעודות השבת הזאת במסע מבושלת או במסע עשירה. Sound familiar? It says, in previous years, the great rabbis of our generation told us to have the Saudot of Shabbat with cooked Masa. Cooked Masa, sounds familiar. We just read about it, didn't we? Or with Masa Ashira, or with egg Masa. V'ashana nosfa sa'a. And now they added more things to tell us. B'masa shena'ista shelo l'shem mizvah. Now they're giving a new thing they started making in Israel that year, at that time period. There was Masa that was being baked for the Shem Mizvah, and they were making Masa without Shem Mizvah on it. And the boxes actually said on it, Masot elu kishirim lePesach velo leShem Mizvah. Okay? So you couldn't even fill your Mizvah on, what do you call it, on the nights of Pesach with that Masa. Ki yadua bechol achat meshitot ele yesh mahloket begedolei haposkim. Because there are different mahlukot. There are different arguments and opinions and views by the poskim regarding these different things. And there is not one that is agreed upon by all the different Hachamim. Zod ve'od. ההרגשה היא קשה ביותר לאכול מסע אף אם היא מוטלת לכל הדעות. And bottom line is, feeling comes into play. And it is difficult. No matter how much you want to play with that Masa. Okay? And you're going to eat it now. You know you're eating Masa. And you know you're not supposed to be eating Masa. And you know you're not walking into the holiday now with that special taste of Masa in your mouth because you ate this cooked Masa during the day. Bottom line. ובפרט לנו הנוהגים שלא לאכול מסע מראש חודש ניסן. David al-Hadif. Okay? You saw? No eating of Masa from Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Thank you. בואו ראה. כמה דינים נכתבו מסביב לסעודת שבת זאת. Come and see how many dinim, how many laws written regarding the, what do you call these סעודות of the Shabbat. ונהגו כל ישראל להשכים קום לתפילת השבת כידוע. And this is common knowledge. This is Minhag Yisrael, that the people get up early on such a Shabbat to pray early. כדי למהר באכילת סעודת שבת בחמש, to go and rush home and finish eating quickly their חמש סעודה. כיצד לא עלה על דעת כל הראשונים, אבותינו ורבותינו, שכתנן עבד ממותנינו להסיע כזאת, מכאן שלא הסכימה דעתם לכך בשום פנים. He goes, bottom line, what is he saying, Haim David HaLevi? He goes, what, all of a sudden, now in 1977 and 1980 and 1982 and 1985, all of a sudden we became geniuses? And for the last 2,000 years, every Hakham whose pinky was bigger than our waists, he tells you, none of them ever came up with this idea of, well, let's cook the Masa. Let's fry the Masa. Let's come up with, some fancy trick, to allow people to sleep in a little bit. And so they could get up and they could eat their Masa. Okay, let them have their cake and eat it too, in other words. Give them all what they want. You think they were all a bunch of fools? Because they were all geniuses. They probably thought of this all and they all had problems with it. And that's why they never told us about it. Because this is the way it has always been. When Pesach starts Saturday night, on that Shabbat morning, we all get up early. We all pray early. We pray quickly. We come home. We eat fast. We're done. Finished. Because this is the way it's always been. Why start changing it? There's nothing wrong with it. ולכן, אני הולך ומורה ברבים לעשות סעודות שבת בחמש דווקא. And therefore, I go out publicly and tell everybody, make sure you eat חמש meals. אלא שמסיע הנני תשייר כמות קטנה של חמש הנחוצה בסמסום לסעודות שבת כדי שבת לפי מספר נפשות הבית מפני שהביעור בשבת הוא קשה. But I do tell them to be careful to only set aside an exact amount as possible of hametz that you know everybody is going to eat, because getting rid of hametz on Shabbat becomes difficult. Okay? Now it goes, now I'm going to tell you the order of our custom. Okay? And notice, he gives you these words, Seder Minhagenu, as opposed to Isa Toba. Okay? Good advice that we saw from Hakham. Rabbi Haim David HaLevi, I'm going to tell you the custom. B'yom Shishi, Yod Gimel Nisan Ba'arim et kol hametz. On Friday, the 13th of Nisan, we burn the hametz. Umasni'im et kol kadeh hametz ki ilu hayah hayom Yud Nisan. And we put away all the hametz vessels as if today is the 14th. And all the Shabbat cooking is all done in Pesach pots. We leave aside a little bit of hametz that we need for each member of the household to eat, like we mentioned. We make it our business that we are using either pita bread or rolls, things that are not very crummy and don't make a lot of crumbs. ומייד אחרי הקידוש מסתופפים פינה מיוחדת על גבי שולחן מיוחד. And after Kiddush, we all gather in a corner, specific, designated corner of a special table. אוכלים פת כשיעור לסעודת שבת עם סלט ירקות וכדומה. We eat enough bread, like the shi'ur of the sa'udah, the amount necessary for the sa'udah of Shabbat, with some salad and other things. Mina'arim ha'begadim he'teb, we shake off the clothing well. U'masalikin ha'mappa v'shulhan, and then we push away this table, we remove this tablecloth, and from the table, and it's gone. Ve'achar kach mesabim l'shulhan ha'shabbat ha'ikari, then we sit around, we gather around the main Shabbat table. Ve'sa'adim betabshirim kishirim bekirim kishirim, and we eat regular kasher lePesach food from kasher lePesach pots, from kasher lePesach plates. Uberkat mazon, and then at the end of the meal we make berkat mazon. Simple. Ve'ilu the maharat b'boker, following morning, in other words, Shabbat morning, Saturday morning, miyad acharei tefillah, so'adim kanal. we eat again the same way like the night before, in a corner. أروحات بكر رجيلة وملئة بكيرين بسيخون الشموش حتى عمي. We use disposable plates and cutlery for breakfast, okay, with bread. ومبارخين بركات المزون. And we say بركات المزون. بحركة من بعارين حماس أيديها أشلختول ماكو مفكير. And then we do bi'ur hames by disposing of the hames in a place of hefker. In other words, outside in a public trash receptacle or down the toilet, or if you have something else. And then you do the bitul hames. وبسهورة يبلين من حق دولا. In the afternoon, pray من حق دولا. بسعاديم سعودات شبات تبشيرين كيشين بكريم كيشين بيسا به سعودة شليشيد ببصار بداجيب. And then we have سعودات, we have pray من حق دولا. We have regular سعودات شبات in the afternoon, just Pesach food. كاخ نرئي لعنيو دعاتي شرقوي فهجون إنهو كل أدام بيتو برتي. And this is the way I see it. This is the way it's to be done by every human being in their home. Then he ends off, tells you now, obviously, even if you're in a what do you call it, in a public place or like a hotel or a hospital or a army camp or something else, then obviously you can't do any of these things because you wouldn't be able to control what's going on, and you'd have to do things differently. Okay, but for a regular person in their home, this is what we do. This is what we've always done. This is what you should be doing. And no tricks about cooking and frying and soaking. It's all out. He doesn't like it, and he does away with it. And he remains, quote unquote, stubborn in telling people to make sure to eat hames on Shabbat. Okay. Comments on this one. I'll start with David Al-Hadif this time. Since Rabbi Haim David HaLevi, who is a Turk like him, okay, tells him no Masa from Rosh Chodesh Nisan.
I agreed with everything he said, and come to think of it, I think more and more about it.
Mm.
Wait.
Mm.
I don't think I eat it either.
Ah,
But not by choice. I just don't.
on steroids.
No. I said if I wanted to eat it,
You're not going to live it down.
someone wanted to. I'm saying I don't see there with being an issue aside from the personal choice of having a taste of matzah in their mouth, which, like you say, is a very good practice.
Mm-hmm.
By choice, I'm not going to be eating matzah Friday night. Just letting you know.
You never know.
And I don't know. And if I indicated that with first teshuvah, then that's not what I was trying to say.
Okay.
But I will not be eating chametz matzah Friday night.
Okay.
And as far as getting up early and eating hametz, I agree this is the proper minhag. And it sounds like you were going that you wanted to ask the question, how many people actually do this? But then you said, no, I'm not going to say it right now.
No, I wasn't going to say anything. Okay, who's next? Michael.
Yes, but that's the thing. So now to have everyone coordinate minyanim early, I mean, the truth of the matter, I mean, I've heard from my father that people used to pray earlier all the time anyway.
That's a different story.
But that's a different story. But nowadays that they don't, I can see how rabbis might be recommending Haim Obadiah Yosef's solution. But I don't think it's, I think what we just read with Rabbi Haim David HaLevi is much more, I mean, it makes more sense, more clear cut. Everyone wakes up early, they eat, they finish eating, and you move on.
Exactly.
I mean, it sounds much simpler.
And his point that, this is not the first time this has happened, and we've had these scenarios for hundreds and really close to a couple of thousand years easily. and nobody else had to come up with a solution. Obviously speaks volumes.
Right. It's not the first time this has happened.
Right.
So
and it'll continue to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Rabbi Kasola, were you here with us for the reading of Rabbi Haim HaLevi's? I think you stepped away. I think you would have enjoyed it. I think you should read it to yourself if you weren't with us. I think you had to step away.
Yes, I'd step away, but I think it's very logical and it makes a lot of sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
And so
Okay.
Hakham Chelouche, yeah.
We're gonna get to Hakham Chelouche in a minute. I hope so. Mark? Anything?
Yeah, no, it's perfect. That's exactly what we do. He takes consideration everybody turns the house over from before Shabbat, and you're also eating bread before for the Chavod Shabbat.
Right, and you're doing it in a way where you're not, getting crumbs all over the place. And the truth is, what he described is that what we've always done.
Yeah.
Exactly what we've done. Never had a problem in the past.
I'm just not sure what's the issue with this fried Masa thing. Just because everybody gets up late and that's it? Is that why he started? Israel, they always pray early, see, even till today.
No, but you saw what he said right away? He said, well, the different opinions are not, or the different current solutions are not all agreed upon by all sources. Okay, and he's telling you, you think all of a sudden nobody knew how to come up with a solution in the past? They didn't come up with one because this is the way it's done. He seemed to be very confident in the way he said things. We're going to see what Rabbi Chelouche has to say, though. Barry, anything?
No, I really liked it. I thought it was great. I would like to be able to actually document those 7 or 8 rules or whatever processes that he laid out. It'd be great to just for everybody to have it, see it, and know how to follow it. And it was pretty
quite
simple. Yeah.
It really is quite simple. It's not a major issue whatsoever. This was really one of what I like to refer to as one of the teshuvot where you really see Rabbi Haim David HaLevi at his best. A real person connected to past and present, and showing you how halakha is made for the everyday person. And everybody can grasp halakha. Don't teach halakha to make people think it's difficult. Show people that halakha is easy. And that way they can incorporate it into their life and they don't have to think of it like, oh, this is only for the super religious people, this is only for the rabbis, this is only for this. No, halakha is for everybody, and everybody could do it. He loved to promote that, and you see it especially in his Mikor Hayim, the way he likes just to lay out the halakha, cut, simple, dry, no questions, and go about your day. You don't have to make a big deal out of anything. It's very important. Okay. Any further questions before we move on? Yeah, David, you're raising your hand there. Please, go ahead. What do you have?
First of all, I see that Batesh is on, and that's the only reason I have the floor so much in this class, right? He's not on, I'm saying.
David's in Florida visiting his mother. What's the question?
Based on go back to Hakham, do you
I don't
deter
hear you.
people from having hametz on Friday?
I really don't hear you,
I got
David.
the
You're
sense
breaking
that
up.
Hakham. Is that better? Is that better?
Anybody here, David, that could restate his question for me?
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say it yet. Can you hear me now?
I hear you now. Yes.
Okay. Was Hakham Yad? Did you feel that he was trying to deter people from making hamotzi on Fridays?
He was trying to what?
Deter people from making hamotzi on Friday night, just as a compromise.
No, I didn't feel that at all. I did not get that sense from his words
Okay.
whatsoever.
All right. I misunderstood his entire premise.
All right, so
Okay.
you'll read it again. You have it there. You can read it. Okay.
Got it.
Now, Hakham David Chelouche. Okay, and I'd like to say something before we start with Hakham David Chelouche. Hakham David Chelouche, as we know, for many decades held opposing views to Hakham Yosef. And there was a time when Hakham David Chelouche came out very, very hard against the modus operandi of Hakham Yosef, of everything being Kibanu Alayhim Haraot Maran and Maran and Shuharuch, etc., etc. And as we've shown in the past, Hakham David Chelouche wrote out against this whole mindset and this whole process. Hakham Yosef got very, very angry at him. And Hakham Yosef was in a position of power. Okay, and I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but I feel I need to bring it up tonight because it's troubling me. This past week, Hakham Yosef came out with a statement, and he said something about Hakham David Chelouche without using his name, referring to him as some rabbi from Netanya who, back in 73, didn't want to follow Maran, and Hakham Yosef, my father, did all he could to stop him from advancing in the rabbinate, because we couldn't have such people like that in the rabbinate. And really, I felt the statement was really degrading. Why should you bring up something about two Hachamim that have already passed away? It wasn't nice at all, and it wasn't done nicely. And now it's creating a major stir the last few days in Israel, now that people have heard it. And it's really circulating far and wide. And there are a lot of different reasons why and how this all developed back in the early 70s. The thing is, a lot of this wasn't known. And while doing some research a few years back, and the only one that knows about this until now is Sam Cohen, because I told him about it at the time. And I was doing research on the life of Hakham David Chelouche and all the different chief rabbis, and I came across a lot of dirt. Searching the old Israeli newspapers from the early 70s, basically from the years 70 through 72, really, prior to 73 when Rabbi Yitzhak Yosef said it happened. And the things that occurred, and the name calling and the backstabbing, really, really disgusting things transpired. And when I was so troubled by it, I spoke to Hakham David Chelouche about it over the phone, and Sam Cohen spoke to Hakham David Chelouche about it in person, telling him that I came across this information and what do you have to say about it? And Hakham David Chelouche was a real gentleman. Really, he said, this is something from the past. Yes, everything you read and that you heard is true and much, much more. But I will not talk about it. I will not bring it up because we have to move on in our lives. We cannot dwell on bad things. And Borei Olam will take care of everything. But you knew he was deeply hurt by it, but he didn't want to share it. And even when I brought it up to family members of his, and Sam brought it up to family members of his, they didn't know anything about it. He kept it a secret, how he was really, really destroyed for a certain part of his life. They tried to really bring him down. And to see this going on again now, after he's passed away, it's not right. And you're going to see in many teshuvot, because of that, especially in Hamdah Genuzah, Halak Rishon, practically every teshuvah, he makes it his business to attack Hakham with Yosef. Remember, it was still fresh back then. The second volume, he wasn't the same. He didn't attack Hakham with Yosef the same way. But when he really didn't like something Hakham with Yosef said, he commented on it. And this we're going to be looking at right now, where he does not like this Isa Toba, this good advice of Hakham with Yosef. He approaches it, of course, very differently than Rabbi Haim David HaLevi. Rabbi Chelouche likes to approach it from a deep insightful view of halakha and how halakha has been created and developed. And he's going to show us why he's more in sync with Rabbi Haim David HaLevi and Shulchan Aruch as opposed to Hakham Yosef's view and opinion. So we're looking now at Hamdah Genuzah, Halak Bet, Siman Samach Aleph. Ereb Pesah, she-hal BeShabbat. Okay, our same scenario of Pesach that begins on Saturday night. בשנה זו, שנת תשמע, שחל ערב פסח בשבת, קמו רבים להורות, וכל אחד מהם הוראה איך לנהוג בשבת זו, כאילו שנים רבות לא חל ערב פסח בשבת. So it's 1981, and this is the way it's happening, that the holiday is falling out on Saturday night, and all of a sudden, so many people are getting up to make rules and to pass the judgment to say what to do on this Shabbat, as if this has never happened before or hasn't happened in many, many years. And he starts, Hagiri Obadiah Shalita, okay, Yosef, in other words, I go on to be Yosef Obadiah. Okay, you have to also remember, Hakham David Chelouche and Hakham Yosef were schoolmates. They went to put out Yosef together. Rabbi Haim David HaLevi as well. Okay, but Hakham David and Hakham were the same age. They walked together a lot. They talked a lot. They discussed things a lot. And at one point, they were very, very, very close friends. Okay. Now he goes, Hora barabim le'echol b'sa'udat leil Shabbat v'yom Shabbat shahrit Masa ashira shenilosha b'mei perod v'yikba' sa'udato aleha. So now, based upon this, remember, we read Hakham Yosef 1977. Hakham David Chelouche talked to us 1981. He's saying Hakham Yosef has now ruled publicly to eat on the night of Shabbat and on Yom Shabbat in Shahrit egg masa, and make your sa'udah on egg masa. So in 77, he's telling you to take your masa and soak it or fry it. In 1981, according to Hakham David Chelouche, Hakham is telling you to use egg masa. מה שהורה לאכול מסע שנלושה במי פירות, ודאי לא התכוון למי פירות עם מים, שכיוון שממהרת להחמיץ. Because first of all, you have to understand, Hakham Yosef is not telling you to use masa that was cooked in fruit juice that has been reconstituted with water, but obviously, because that would turn into hametz very quickly. We know that water with flour becomes hametz. If you have water and juice together with flour, it becomes hametz even quicker. Okay? It's a chemical reaction that causes it to become hametz even quicker. יש חשש גדול שיחמיסה ויאכלנו לאחר זמן איסורו. Obviously, we're concerned that it could turn into hametz. כי מסע עשירה היא. בהכרח שהתכוון שנלושה במפירות בלי מים כלל. Obviously, we have to assume that Hakham Yosef's advice is to make sure that is something that was flour that was needed with pure fruit juice only. Now, what does the Rambam say? מסע שלה בימי פירות יוסף בידי חובתו בפסח. Do you hear that? If you take Masa and you knead it with fruit juice, you fulfill your obligation on Pesach. Powerful words from Harambam. וכיוון שיוסף בא ידי חובתו בפסח, דינה כמסע שנלושה במים בלבד. So therefore, if you fulfill your obligation on Pesach, it's like regular Masa of flour and water. ואסור לאוכלה ביום י"ד, and becomes asur now to eat it on the 14th day of the month of Nisan. ועוד, בין אם נילושה במי פירות, ובין אם נילושה ביין או שמן או חלב. Now, whether it was flour that was kneaded with fruit juice, or flour that was kneaded with wine, or oil, or milk, לדעת הרמב"ם, אין זה לחם עוני, this is not considered לחם עוני. אין מקיימין בסעודת שבת כהלכה לכולי עלמא. You can definitely not use this to fulfill סעודת שבת כהלכה. כי חייב אדם לסעוד סעודת שבת ראשונה ושנייה בפת. According to Harambam, you must have pat, you must have real bread, okay, to fulfill your obligation of Sa'udah, Rishona, and Shaniya on Shabbat. Sha'af miyakba' Sa'udato b'masa ashira. Even if you want to establish your meal upon Masa ashira, v'yibarech b'kat mazon, say b'kat mazon, enu mekayem Sa'udat Shabbat k'halacha. You do not fulfill Sa'udat Shabbat k'halacha. כי אין החובה לברך ברכת המזון בשבת, אלא לסעוד סעודה בשבת. כי you have no חובה to say ברכת המזון בשבת. You have a חובה, though, to eat a סעודה on Shabbat. ואין סעודה אלא בפת. And the only way to have סעודה, you have to have פת. ככתוב, ויקחה פת לחם וסעדו לבכם. Right? Didn't Abraham Abinu say this? Good. וכן כתב התוספות, וכן פסק הראש, וכן נראה מדברי הרמב"ם, וכן כתב שם, I don't know what he is over there, or probably, that wouldn't be הגהות מימוניות, I don't know what it is, okay. וכן פסק השולחן ערוך, ועיין עוד משנה ברורה שם. So he's bringing, obviously, these are sources to fulfill or to agree with Harambam. There are those that say to fulfill your obligation on Shabbat with Masa that was fried or cooked. Even with this, you do not fulfill the obligation of Sa'udat Shabbat. It does not taste like bread. And for us who make mizonot entire year on Masa, هو الدين كشيء متوجنت يبريخ عليها مزونات تلا عديفة مسا جوفا. So now once we fry the masa, it also turns into mizonot. It also changes it, so it doesn't taste like pat and doesn't have the beracha of pat. Ereb Pesah Jolti. Ereb Pesah Jolti was one of the great rabbis of Yerushalayim, Ashkenazi. Hora le'efot masa shelo l'shem mitzvah. As we saw, Rabbi Haim HaLevi brought this up, to make Masa that it's not l'shem mitzvah. U'lochla b'yom Shabbat be'Ereb Pesah, and eat it on Shabbat Ereb Pesah. Gam hora'ato einan eat. Also, his ruling doesn't seem to sit well with me. This is going to cause a lot of people to make mistakes. We know the workers are not going to be scrupulous regarding this. The workers in the factory, the Masa factory, they're going to mix up the Masot. Then they're going to put on Masa Shelo L'Shem Mizvah in the box of the regular Masot and vice versa. ומסע שנפיל סתם יכניסו בעטיפות מסע של השום הזה שנפיל שלו לשם מצווה, ורבים הם עמי הארץ שאינם קונים מסע מיוחד שנפל לשם מצווה ואוכלים בזה פסח מסע רגילה. And we know there are many people who don't have special מסע שמורה משעת כסירה, and they'll take any Masa from any box and they'll use it on the night of Pesach, and you have all types of problems. And according to the Rosh and other Rishonim, any Masa, okay, you fulfill your obligation with. And now if you take this Masa that was cooked not l'shem mizvah, the guy's trying to do mizvah on the night of Pesach and he ends up doing no mizvah whatsoever. He wasted his time. And where did you even come up with this concept that you're allowed to eat such Masa on Ereb Pesach, that was Masa that was not cooked l'shem mizvah? ובירושלמי אמרו, האוכל מסע בערב פסח כבועל ארוסתו בבית חמיב. Powerful words. In the Yerushalmi it says, person who eats Masa on Ereb Pesach, it's as if he is fornicating with his fiance in the house of his father-in-law. You think they only said this about Masat Mizvah? What's the mashal? He's not waiting to taste the Masa. He wants it now. All year long, he's eating Hames and he's waiting to taste that Masa. What's the difference if it's Masa Mizvah or was made L'Shem Mizvah or not? Once you tasted it, you tasted it. It is it. ועוד, מנין למד שמסע שנאפת שלא לשם מזבח אין אדם יוצא ידי חובת אכילת מסע בליל פסח. And now let's say you made Masa that wasn't made for Shem Mizvah and you ate it. Who said that you don't fulfill your obligation on Leil Pesach? שהכתוב, what does the Pasuk say? ושמרתם את המסות. Okay? You watch the Masa. שממנו למדו שימור למסות. פירשו לשמור אותם שלא יחמיסו. You watch them so they do not become חמס. משעת לישה, from the time that you need the dough. כתרגום אונקלוס, בתתרון יד פטירה. ויותם בן עוזיאל אומר, בתתרון יד לשתה דפטירה. לשתה, when you need it. פירוש לשמור את הלישה של המסות משעת לישה שלא תחמיס. You watch the dough when you're kneading it. From that point on, that does not become חמס. והכתוב איירה במסות של כל שבעת ימי החג. And it's talking about all the masot they eat on the entire 7-day holiday. דכתיב הטעם, because it's written afterwards, מיום הראשון עד יום השביעי. גם של ליל פסח. Includes obviously the night of Pesach. So far, we see Rabbi Chelouche is knocking everybody out of the ballpark. He's knocking out Masa Ashira. He's knocking out Masa that was cooked. He's now knocking out Masa that was, not made L'Shem Mizvah. Right? He doesn't like anybody's ideas. We saw. Rabbi Haim HaLevi said, there's no opinion that will work across the board according to all the opinions of the Hakhamim. ובגמרא פסחים אמר רבא מזבח לילתות שנאמר ושמרתם את המסות אילה דבעי לתיתה שימור למאי אי שימור דלישה לאו שימור הוא דאמר רבונה מסקות של נוכרים שמקיא בהם שלא יחמיסו שהם שם צדיקים אדם מלא כלעשו מהן ובלבד שיאכל כזית באחרונה במצוות אכילתה עם הפסח שנאכל על הסובע. באחרונה אין, בראשונה שאכל עם בסריקות של נוכרים, לא יסדה חובה. מה טעמה? משום דלה עבר להוא שימור מעיקרה לשם מצווה. וממאי? דמה שאני הטעם דבעידנה דנחל השימור לה עביד לה שימור, אבל הגה דבעידנה דנחל השימור עביד לה שימור, הנה שימור לאישה, שימור אף ביחי, לה הדר ברבה. Fine. Now he explains to you what's going on here in the Gemara. Perush, Mizvah liltot, כדי לקיים מצוות ושמרתם את המסורת של הפסח, שילטות אותם מעט, וטוחנם מיד, right? You take it, you grind it right away, ויקיים בהם מצוות שמירה, שלא יחמיסו. Watch it out so it does not become into hames, it doesn't ferment. שאם לא ילטטו, אין קיום מצוות שמירה. ואף על פי שאפשר לקיים מצוות שמירה משעת אישה שילוש אותם בישראל שהוא בר שימור ולא יהיו בו סדקים, דעת רבה שאינו רואה סדקים אין זו שמירה שאפשר שהקמח שינלוש היו בו חטין שנתבקעו ונערבו באחרים שלא מורגש חמוסן אחר לאישה וסדוקה עיסה ומטעם זה לא הדר ברבה שמצווה לטוב מהחמת קושת ומקפיים. All that doesn't have to do anything with what we want to say. I think the whole next section over here, once I'm skipping ahead, he's going through the whole thing to show how you cannot decide if, what do you call it, if he's knocking out everything from Rabbi Jolti, saying that it makes no difference if it was the Shem Mizvah or not the Shem Mizvah. Okay, okay, we're going to go to the next page. Okay, so on the final page, okay, so we're on the first column, okay, the fourth paragraph, where it starts Vav Zayin Lamed, Rashi Tebot, okay? וזה לשון רמב"ם. עיסת כלבים שלשין אותם במורסנה, ומתכוון לאכילה לכלבים, ושלא יאכל ממנה שום אדם. אין החייבת בחלה שנאמר ואכלתם מלחם הארץ, ואין אדם יעשה ידי חובתו הפסח. לפי שאין אדם יעשה ידי חובתו אלא דבר שחייב בחלה כמו שכתב בשמי קנה. אם חשה בעת הלישה בין על אכילת הכלבים בין על אכילת בני אדם, התחייבה אותה עיסה במה שחייבת כל עיסה, ואין הפרש ביניהם. ובהלכה עיסת הכלבים בזמן שאין הרועים אוכלים ממנה, אין יעשה בה שאין זו משומר לשם מצווה. So he comes down at the end, he quotes us a section from Rambam, that if you're making a dough for the dogs, for the kilabim, okay, and you're kneading it in a certain way, in this case, because you know it's specifically for the dogs, you do not have to separate halal, because in a case like that, you know it's only going to be for the dogs, and it's no longer considered lehem for the people. But now, if you're eating a dough, and you're saying, well, it could be possibly for the dogs. Maybe, well, let's the people eat it too. You know, it could go either way. Maybe I'll make a little bit like this, a little bit like that. All of a sudden, now we have a choba of Isa, of removing this piece of dough for the halal. So now, once you go the same thing over here. Once you're making a dough, okay, yeah, you may not be making it in the Shem Mizvah, okay, but now you're making it where you're going to have to remove the halal because this is something intended for human consumption. Now, once a human is going to come to take it, they're eating it, whether they're eating it on Pesach or on Ereb Pesach, it makes no difference. Either way now, it's the same Masa, okay? And you cannot tell somebody this is the Shem Mizvah, this is not the Shem Mizvah, and putting all the signs you want on the box don't change anything. Okay, it's something very, very problematic, he feels. וקשה, למה כתב בהלכות טעם, שאין זה משומר לשם מסע, שהוא מצוות החכמים, אחר שאסור מהתורה משום שאין הלחם. You can't tell you that this is, he's telling this is halakha deoraita, and you cannot come and change it and say this is only something deoraita, the Rabbanan, and we could change the status of it, because the Torah is very clear, this is milechem ha'aretz. Milechem ha'aretz is an issue of halakha deoraita, where once you have to remove the halal, that is the case over here. ונראה שהרמב"ם מפרש משנה זו כרבי בא בירושלמי. עיסת הכלבים שלו אותם מנוסה ומקווה שלא יאכל ממנו אדם יוסף בחולה בפרע. לפי שאין אדם יוסף בחולה באדם שחיה בחלה. Right? So a person now who took this masa that was this or dough that was intended to be for dogs, okay, and you wanted to make it, take it for yourself, and use it for Pesach, you wouldn't be able to fulfill your obligation because it wasn't for Hayab and Hallah. So Harambam is deriving his halakha from the Yerushalmi. וזו אין החייב בחלה כיוון שלא שעה במורסן, וגם לא התכוון בלישתה למאכל אדם. It was never intended to be needed for human consumption. אם חשה בעת הלישה לאוכלה, בין שלשה במוסה, בין עשה לגוס קמה, חייב וחלה, כי זה נקרא לחם שראוי לאוכלו. אם חשב בעת הלישה, פירוש לאוכלה, בין על אכילת כלבים, פירוש שלושה ממוסה, ובין על אכילת בני אדם, שעשה גלוסקה, חייב וחלה, ואם עשה אותה גלוסקנה, והתכוון לאכילה לכלבים ולא לאדם, אף על פי שנקראת לחם, אין הוא יוסף לחובה, שאין זה משומר לשמנסה, וזהו שכתב הלכה, עשה לכלבים, פירוש שאפילו בשעה גלוסקנה, בזמן שאין הרעים אוכלים אותה, פירוש שלא אותה, שלש אותה, שלא יאכלו הרעים ממנו כמו שכתב ברבי, אין יוסף לחובה, שאין זה משומר לשמנסה. ממה שכתוב בהלכה, יישא כלבים בזמן שאין הרועים אוכלים ממנה, אין יוסף בידי שמשווה לשמנסה, משמע שאם חשה בעת הלישה לאוכלה, אף על פי שלא שמר אותה לא משעת כסירה ולא משעת טחינה, יישא בידי חובתו מן התורה, מכאן שכשאין לו מסע שמורה יעשה ידי חובה, ללא כמו שכתב. Okay, now he tells you at the end, okay, let's say you were making this dough for the dogs, okay, and it's not something that the ro'im, that the shepherds would normally eat from, okay, because you're not considering that. But let's say now you thought in your mind while you're making, maybe I'll eat it, maybe somebody can eat it with me. Once you change your thought process that you can eat it and you might want to eat from it, okay, and even you didn't watch it, not from sha'at kisira, the time of harvesting, and not from the sha'ah, from the time when you actually ground the wheat into flour. Still, yasa ba yedeh hobato min Torah. You fulfill your obligation with this from the Torah. The Oraita mikan. From this we learn kishe'en lo masa shemura. Even if you don't have masa shemura, you say yedeh hobato. You fulfill your obligation. Only because of your thought process that you were already watching it from the time of Lisha. Yesh, shehuru sheuchal kazay lechem b'pinat habayit. Okay, now he's going to eat some bread in the corner of the house. V'yibarech sham b'kat hamazon. V'achar ka yikanes lebeito v'yochal perot u'masa ashira. And then go back into your house and eat fruit and masa ashira. Also, these people did not fulfill that Shabbat right. The mitzvah is to eat Sa'udah Shabbat with bread, be'onig, okay, with rejoicement. Not to eat like like you're stuck in a jail cell someplace in a corner, with no enjoyment whatsoever. لسعود ببوكر بشبات بلحم حميس. The Aharonim wrote to eat in the morning on Shabbat لحم حميس with regular bread. ويبارك بركات المزون and say بركات المزون وحوزي بنوتل يداv. Then go wash your hands وبريخ موسي كده كيام مزفاة السعودة شليشيت. Then go eat another. Then wash your hands again after you finish بركات المزون to eat سعودة شليشيت ببات. Obviously, we have to be concerned about beracha she'ena sericha, beracha that's unnecessary. But you can't do it because we have a straight halacha that Sa'udah Shlishit has to be after midday. So that's out. Finally, and properly we do not change the minhag. What we read before in the very beginning of the class, لسعود بلحم أو ببيتا شيئين با بيروريم. We eat with bread that's not crummy. ויאכל בסלחות חד פעמיות או של זכוכית. Or you eat in disposable plates or in glass plates. ויבשל האוכל בכלי כשר, and cook your food in כשר לפסח pots. ויערה מהסיר כשר בכף גדולה לסלוחית אלו, and take a large ladle, a serving spoon, into your pot and let it fall onto the plate. The ladle doesn't have to touch the plate and everything is fine. בסעודה שלישית יקיימנה בפירות. סעודה שלישית, you're just going to have fruit, you have no choice. כיוון שאי אפשר לעשות בדרך אחרת, because you have no choice to eat it any other way. כדין אם הוא שבע ביותר, as if you were actually very, very full. So bottom line is, he's for the most part, he's in agreement with Rabbi Haim David HaLevi. He's not in agreement with Hakham Yosef. He's not in agreement with the opinions of making your Sa'udah on Masa Ashira, like Haim Yosef came out with, at a later time, or with the opinion of Masa that's not the Shem Mizvah, and that's basically it. I think the Hachamim, knew what they were doing for all these years, as Rabbi Haim David HaLevi clearly said, and as Rabbi David Chelouche clearly pointed out, because he likes to get into the nitty-gritty of the halakha and the sources. And I think, it should be clear for everybody what to do. It shouldn't be an issue of a question whatsoever. You do not have to do Biur Hames on Friday. If you want to, you can, but you do not have to. Maran was clear, it was good. Tob, he told you. It's good to. Okay? But you don't have to do it. As far as getting rid of Hames on Shabbat morning, yes, like I said, you could throw it out into the garbage. Okay, nowadays we have an Ereb. If you use the Ereb, you could put it out onto the street. And we have, bottom line, we flush it down the toilet, any little crumbs that you have. And it's very, very simple. And you're able to fulfill Sa'udot Shabbat properly Friday night and Shabbat morning with bread. There shouldn't be any question whatsoever. I know it got late and everybody disappeared, so I know you guys are tired too. I see it, but I want to hear any comments, please.
Could you just clarify this comparison to the case of the Caleb, making bread for the Caleb?
I have to read it further, but basically it seems that in the Gemara, it talks about when you make a dough. Okay, as we know, when we make dough, we have to separate challah, correct?
Yes.
So that's when you're making dough for human consumption. When you make a dough, all right, which is not going to be for human consumption, you don't have to separate. Now, once you're separating and it becomes fit for human consumption, it now is something that can be used by a Jew at any time. Once it can be used by a Jew at any time. Now, let's say you don't have any other Masa. This Masa is now being used by the Jew, either knowingly or unknowingly. He could use it on the night of Pesach as well. Halal was removed from it. It's considered fit for human consumption. It was made with the intention of human consumption. So therefore, you cannot call it something that was not made l'shem mizvah, because you don't have to have a kavanah of mizvah, he's telling you, once it was made for human consumption. That's why I'm understanding it. Okay? I would have to read it a little bit further and deeper, but that's what, from top of my head, that's what I recall, and I obviously, you saw I skimmed and skipped a section, but that's what I do know about it. Clarified it a bit more?
Yeah.
Okay. Michael, anything?
No, I mean, I thought it was very comprehensive. I thought the idea of doing two at the end there was very interesting. Of doing two seudot
right, back to back, right? But he knocked that out as well.
He knocked it out as saying it's as it makes sense. It's not.
Right, you have beracha she'ena silicha, according to the Tosafot. You cannot go against Shulchan Aruch and eat Sa'udah Shlishit before Hasot, and
right
after Hasot you can't eat bread, so that's out. And also you have what do you call it? It's also considered plain and simple achila gasa. You just finish eating, you're gonna go and eat again. You can't.
Yeah,
do that.
There's no need. There's no need. So it's and that's it. You have it on Perot. Honestly, I mean, I know we're supposed to have like 3 hearty meals, but given that that night is going to be Pesach, you're going to be
and you're going to go into a majorly hearty meal.
So you can have an apple and move on. Like, I don't know.
Basically.
I find, yeah, I find that.
But you see, he doesn't even want you eating Masa Ashira.
Yeah.
He doesn't want you eating even Masa Ashira. He doesn't want you eating on Ereb Pesah. Okay?
Right. Absolutely.
Mr. Elhad, if anything, David? Yes? No? All right. Class dismissed. Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you for bearing with me even though I showed up late. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Hakham.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much. Isaac
Take care.
Baruch.
Dak v'emos. Take care. Good night, everybody.
Good night.